Majesty Queen Elizabeth II is dead. King Charles III is now in accession to the throne. Good morning and welcome to this special edition of Talking Points on WESN, the content capital, where this morning we will have special programming following the death of Queen Elizabeth II and an episode in remembrance of her. Alongside me is my co-host and colleague, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Keaton, and it's an interesting situation because whereas other high-profile celebrity deaths, especially ones that hit me and make me sad, are people gone before their time. This is a situation where, I do have to reflect and think, well, she had an extraordinary life, being the monarch for 70 years, and her husband unfortunately passed away last year. It's almost as though there's a sense of completeness in this case that I think maybe staves off a little bit of the sadness. And I'm reminded of the phrase, it's not about how she died or to worry about her in death, but to remember her in life and to celebrate her life.
Well,
and what she has accomplished. And I think that now might be the thing that maybe will come under the microscope, at least from her critics and her supporters. What she has meant to the world, and as I mentioned earlier this morning, I think she's a cultural icon, and I think some people might underestimate and maybe overestimate what she means to the world.
Well, certainly, very well said. Unfortunately, the British people may not necessarily feel the same way because a tear started flowing once, even before news of the Queen had passed. Where folks gathered outside Windsor Castle, where she stayed for most of her time as the monarch. Because you remember, she was queen for 70 years. Her coronation was I think on June 2nd, 1953, and this is following the death of her father.
Yes.
She was at the throne for 70 years. Actually, just over a year ago, last year, April, her husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, he passed away, and since then the Queen's health has been in spotlight. She became notably frail. However, it certainly took the people of the United Kingdom and the world quite by shock yesterday. The fact that she met Liz Truss, the British Prime Minister, the new British Prime Minister, 2 days ago, to officially claim her as the new head of the British Parliament. Well, in that instance, the Queen's demise within the matter of 2 days certainly took everybody by surprise. But we do actually have a clip this morning. We have quite a few videos this morning that we will play for you as we have this discussion here on Talking Points. The first of which is in remembrance, of course, of Queen Elizabeth II, a compilation of her life. Let's take a look.
Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has died. Queen Elizabeth has been monarch of the United Kingdom and head of the Commonwealth nations since 1952. She surpassed Queen Victoria, her great-great-grandmother, to become the longest reigning British monarch in 2015. And in 2022, Britain celebrated Her Majesty's Platinum Jubilee in honor of 70 years on the throne. But before that, on the 21st of April, 1926, she was born Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth Alexandra Mary of York, first child of Prince Albert and Lady Elizabeth, then styled the Duke and Duchess of York. Princess Elizabeth was expected to live a relatively normal, if privileged, life. But all that changed when King Edward VIII abdicated the throne of England to his younger brother, Prince Albert, in 1936. Prince Albert became His Majesty King George VI, making Princess Elizabeth the heiress presumptive, next in line to the throne. She was not heir apparent because if her parents had a son after her, the laws of the day would have moved Elizabeth down in the line of succession. Something she later changed. Princess Elizabeth's life of service and public spotlight started early. Here she is in a 1940 radio recording. The 14-year-old princess encouraged children living through World War II.
And when peace comes, remember, it will be for us, the children of today, to make the world of tomorrow a better and happier place.
As World War II raged through Europe, Princess Elizabeth enlisted in the Auxiliary Territorial Service, the women's branch of the British Army, when she turned 18. She worked as an auto mechanic and truck driver until the war ended in 1945.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
In 1947, at just 21, Princess Elizabeth made that incredible vow, and she lived up to it. By her side was husband and consort, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, whom she married later that year. Their marriage lasted over 73 years until the Duke's death in 2021. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, as they were first styled, welcomed their first two children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, before the death of King George VI. Princess Elizabeth ascended the throne on February 6, 1952. She was just 25 years old. The coronation of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was the first British coronation to be fully televised, with cameras allowed inside Westminster Abbey. It was one of many ways Her Majesty went on to modernize the monarchy. The Queen and Prince Philip had two more children, Princes Andrew and Edward, making them the firstborn to a reigning monarch since the era of Queen Victoria. After centuries of calculated remoteness, Queen Elizabeth was the first British royal to start the walkabout, greeting people face to face rather than being chauffeured from afar. Generations of royals have continued this tradition. The Queen also saw the royal family into the age of technology. In 1957, her annual Christmas message was broadcast on television for the first time. She sent her first tweet in 2014 and posted her first Instagram picture in 2019, signing them both Elizabeth R. She was even the first British monarch to pay income taxes. Away from official duties, the Queen was known to love dogs, especially the Corgi and Dorgi breeds, as well as horse racing. The Queen and Prince Philip had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 12 great-grandchildren. With 3 males next in the Windsor line of succession, it will be generations before the world ever says, "God save the Queen," again.
Well, certainly a life of service indeed dedicated to her country and, by extension, the entirety of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
And as a reflection of respect and a sign of mourning following the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, Trinidad and Tobago's flags will fly at half-mast today and on the day of the Queen's funeral, which is in about 10 days' time.
It's a strange thing because the modern world only really knows of this one British monarch. And if you were to ask anybody, the average, I would presume, global citizen, so I mean American, Canadian, Caribbean citizen, South American citizen, to some extent, Southeast Asia, you know, outside of Europe, how many people know of any other European monarch? Or at least my fellow Trinbagonians, which, whatever monarchs do you know, whoever monarchs might you have known? Maybe you might know of Saudi Arabia, Dubai, the Sultan of Dubai, but really and truly, when you think of a royal, of a monarch, as much as the institution seems to be less important these days, culturally speaking, that's the first name that comes to mind when you say of the Queen. Mm-hmm. And with a 70-year reign, the British public, for the most part, with exceptions of those old enough, don't really know of any other monarch. She literally was, for 70 years, the institution of the royal family. Mm-hmm. And culturally speaking, again, we have seen her, whether via cameo or whether in person herself, making appearances through pop culture, engaging in the internet, as that clip showed. Of course, there was that famous video with Daniel Craig and herself.
Paddington Bear?
right? So, and her image and likeness has been used in movies and in television shows. To some extent, there was no one bigger for another celebrity or famous person to meet. Yes, you could meet the President of the United States, but then to some extent, you know, maybe just a half notch higher. There's the Queen of England, because again, she has been for 70 years the one monarch, and you could argue that she has set the tone for what it means to be a monarch at a time when people question the relevance of that sort of thing in the modern world. She is the one that is the example of what it means to be, because even now, we in TNT might not understand her relevance to the British public, but the British public still, you know, cherish her and remember her now in the time of her passing.
Well, at 4:30 p.m., the British Prime Minister Liz Truss, this is yesterday of course, was first informed of the Queen's passing, and at 6:30 p.m. Buckingham Palace announced that the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral Castle this afternoon, where she was staying, where she spent most of her summer holidays actually, and most recently, well, in the last 2 years, she spent a lot of time there. Just to give you some very interesting information, Operation London Bridge are the formal plans put in place following the passing of the Queen, if she were to be in London. However, because she was in Scotland when she passed, Operation Unicorn. Unicorn actually is the national animal of Scotland.
Of Scotland, right.
So that is why the plan is in place. So there are 10 days of ceremonies to follow the Queen's passing. I believe that this morning there will be a gun salute every 10 seconds for each year of the Queen's life. So that's 96 gun salutes. King Charles III, well, as you would have seen from that video, it's going to be generations before you hear again, God Save the Queen. Ladies and gentlemen, a lot more to speak about, but for now, let us remember the Queen as we take a break here on Talking Point. When we return, well, we do have a video of the Queen's coronation ceremony back in 1953, following which we will show you a clip of her visit to Trinidad in 1966, a very first actually in 1966. We'll be right back after this.
Delivered nationwide. Kiss Enriched Bread.
Fill your day with love.
You can be
become a highly trained emergency response professional that can operate in the health, corporate, industrial, and educational sectors. Tech EMS courses include EMT, AEMT, paramedic, BLS, ACLS, PALS, first aid, CPR, AED, and other courses.
Register early for September 2022.
For your baby is at thebesttoys.com. From the best strollers, car seats, baby carriers, high chairs, booster seats, rockers, jumpers and bouncers, walkers, baby blankets, feeding accessories, bathtubs. Visit us in store at Forces Flagship McLean. Shop online now at thebesttoys.com. Order via call or WhatsApp at 332-BABY. And remember, we have the best toys at the best prices.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to Talking Point. This is a special edition this morning in remembrance of Queen Elizabeth II following her passing at the age of 96, 70 years, the monarch of the United Kingdom and the head of the Commonwealth. She was the longest serving monarch of the British Empire. But that being said, let's continue this morning because, Sean, you know, with technology, we were able to actually get a video, a colored video.
Yes.
Of the Queen's coronation, which, as you would have learned earlier from the report that we would have first shown, was the very first, and rightfully so by you pointing it out, the only coronation ceremony to ever be aired.
It's just, and I think this is the unfortunate part of the situation for the public. You know, a family member has passed away for the royal family. That's very personal to them. For the public, a person that has been an institution unto themselves with their service, a lot of people think that the Queen has authority and control and wealth, and the Queen is nowhere near the richest person in our own country. But what she has done, she has served for so long, you know, she has almost made the position and the title so special by her presence of being able to be the steward of her nation in that respect, you know, in many ways unofficially for so long that I do wonder if the world is just a little bit less special. You know, it's not as though we lost any significant systems of our economy and of our society, but we did lose a person who has been there and seen a lot of our recent history and has, in a way, bridged that gap.
Actually, she's seen the whole history of an independent Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, of the Commonwealth.
Yes. But folks, let's take a look at this clip of the Queen's coronation ceremony back in 1953.
And she puts on the great golden mantle, the imperial robe.
Receive this imperial robe, and the Lord your God endue you with knowledge and wisdom, with majesty and with power from on high. The Lord clothe you with the robe of righteousness and with the garments of salvation.
And receives the orb, the world under Christ's dominion, and the ring of sapphire and ruby.
Receive this orb set under the cross, and remember that the whole world is subject to the power and empire of Christ our Redeemer. Receive the royal scepter, the ensign of kingly power and justice. Receive the rod of equity and mercy. Be so merciful that you be not too remiss, so execute justice that you forget not mercy. Punish the wicked, protect and cherish the just. You with a crown of glory and righteousness, that having a right faith and manifold fruit of good works, you may obtain the crown of an everlasting kingdom by the gift of him whose kingdom endureth forever. Amen.
Prince Charles, the Duke of Cornwall, has joined the Queen Mother and Princess Margaret and has taken part in the splendid moment of his mother's crowning. The trumpets are sounded and the bells are rung. The thunder of guns roars across Hyde Park. And far off, eastward by the river, the guns of the Tower of London answer. So have people in the city and town of London hear and know, and salute this moment of crowning.
Well, a bit of history there for you, ladies and gentlemen. The Queen's coronation ceremony on June 2nd, 1953. Sean, I think we must address the fact that there will be,
yes,
and there probably are currently, people watching the program, or people even switched off their television because they're wondering, why is it that talking point and these two young gentlemen are speaking about Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II? It really does not impact Trinidad and Tobago, and it doesn't have anything to do with our current situation.
Because you and I know when we went out into the public, you know, there was one gentleman, he had a certain view of the royal family and the impact they have on the world. And of course, there will be people who have criticisms, whether it is with regards to how the marriage of then Prince Charles and Princess Diana, the events of that, how it unfolded, the most recent situation with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And we know at the end of the day, we might be in Trinidad and Tobago, but people will still have their opinions. And then also, of course, there is the whole fact that we are a former colony, how the whole history of that came to be, and her role as the monarch and what that represents to people who, well, quite frankly, do not like the institution of the monarchy. But I think ultimately speaking, we do have to realize that, one, her time as the queen, no such negative things were inflicted upon us here in TNT. And a lot of the controversies with regards to the royal family, a lot of that is personal to them. And we still need to acknowledge, I believe, the life of someone who has relevance around the world. And I do believe that she proved to be, in a small but very important way, because obviously she's not a world leader that sets policy, that engages actively in diplomacy between nations and governments and trade. And while she has to legally, for the United Kingdom, and I believe for Canada and 13 other Commonwealth nations, declare war, she is not someone who will make that decision. She has not tried to take that level of authority, but she has been, like I said before, a stabilizing force, I believe, in the world, and someone who, again, I think to some extent there was a little bit something special about the Queen, and now the King, Charles III. I don't know if he's going to be able to ever live up to that with this late coronation at the age of 73.
Regardless of the age of his coronation, and regardless for how long irregardless, my apologies, of how long he sits on the throne, it doesn't matter. Quite frankly, it's a huge role to fill.
Huge shoes.
And the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II, I don't think it could be outdone. But in his own right, King Charles III, will forge his own path. He will forge his own legacy, and certainly, as everything will change now, it's now God save the King.
Well, and there's potentially a lot more changes on the horizon for the royal family. It might be controversial changes that King Charles wanted to institute from since earlier this year when he was but Prince Charles, and I'm not entirely sure. But he anticipated, of course, sooner rather than later after the death of his father. He has to prepare himself now to undertake this role. I think we underestimate to what extent this role that she has undertaken for 70 years intrudes on her life, dictated her life, and in many ways, it was a job unlike the type of duties and responsibilities most people would have to undertake and live up to, and she did it for 70 years.
Well, in her 70 years as the British monarch and the head of the Commonwealth, Queen Elizabeth II visited Trinidad and Tobago 3 times. First in 1966, then in 1985, where she visited the University of the West Indies, and then the House of Angostura, in which the Royal Oak rum line was launched in commemoration of her visit. And then her most recent was in 2009 for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting here in Trinidad and Tobago, where she met President George Maxwell Richards and Lady Ramjohn Richards. She would have also met Prime Minister Patrick Manning, Dwight York, Brian Charles Lara. She would have met many folks here in Trinidad and Tobago. Most recently, the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, Paula May Weeks, visited the Queen at Windsor Castle as part of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Now, you may be seeing some footage on your screen, but we're going to pause on that for a moment because we do have a clip of the Queen's visit to Trinidad and Tobago back in 1966. Let's take a look at that now.
Across the Atlantic to Port of Spain, brilliantly touched by the sun and colour of the West Indies, came a reminder of Westminster. Her Majesty had come to open the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago. There to receive her were the President of the Senate, and after him the Speaker of the House of Representatives. For here at Port of Spain is a legislature on the Westminster model. Awaiting the monarch were the representatives of the upper and lower houses, whom the Queen now bade resume their seats. The royal speech from the throne outlined, just as it does on such occasions in the mother of parliaments, the legislation contemplated in the new session. The Duke was uniformed as Colonel-in-Chief of the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. After the ceremony, thousands outside had the chance to see and cheer the Queen and her consort. The island's dignitaries and their wives were invited to meet the royal visitors at Governor-General's house, an engagement at which the privileged appeared in some very high-class chapeau. Visit came within a fortnight of the carnival, and as that is an event not to be missed, the island staged a preview. Certainly, as far as genuine carnival spirit goes, the people of Trinidad have nothing to learn from the Mediterranean countries. Was thoroughly amused by a character portraying Henry VIII. Bluff King Hal was probably in search of something really colourful in the way of a new wife. Wonder that the Queen remarked, "If this is only a preview, the carnival itself must be fabulous." The Queen and Duke left Trinidad by way of San Fernando. Driving through the town in an open car, they were cheered to the echo by more than 100,000 onlookers. Such demonstrations, often spontaneous, prove with what affection the monarch is held by people thousands of miles from Britain. As lightning in a twilight hour, they show in vivid focus the intangible but very strong relationship between Crown and Commonwealth.
Aside, looking back, it might be idealistic, but whenever I see a video of old TNT or even pictures, I can't help but think, Ethan, maybe things were just a little bit sweeter back then. In simpler times, but, you know, maybe it's revisionist history.
Let me not get too caught up in that conversation, but the term "Paradise Lost."
Yeah.
And that term is used for many meanings, but in this particular instance, you're right. I agree with you. When you take a look back at history and take a look back at old Trinidad and Tobago, certainly we were a sweet nation, and we still are, but we're so lost that we will not often experience or witness that sweetness. But folks, in memory, in remembrance of Her Majesty, Her Royal Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, may she rest in peace, as she is now with her beloved husband, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh. We take a break here on the program, and when we return, the conversation will continue.
Celebrate and enjoy your life with a fully electric or hybrid Mini. Now available at LaFast Motors, Port of Spain or San Fernando. We make sure you're safe to drive. Motor Care and Maintenance, MCM Limited, for all your vehicle repairs, diesel and gas. Approved inspection station.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Chantwell Vibes, a musical tribute to Andre Tanker, Saturday, September 24th, 2022, Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. Featuring Three Canal, Mavis John, Ataclan, Empress Ajay, Stacy Sobers, and panist Natasha Joseph. Tickets, $300. Available at Crosby's Music Center, St. James. Extra Foods, Arima, Grand Bazaar, and Endeavour. Online at Island E-Tickets. Committee members at 678-2843 or 482-3111. Central Bank box office on the day of the event. Mart's Liquor Palace, Diego Marte Main Road, La Puerta. A musical tribute to Andre Tanker. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m.
Is it politics? What is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing now, Andre.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Paul?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen, and we are of course joined by Acting ASP Ashraf Ali here with us. He wasn't able to join us on Monday, so he stopped by today. He was willing to just give us an update on some important situations with regards to what's going on in crime in the country. Good morning, ASP Ali.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's nice to be here again.
Good morning. Welcome back.
Yes, thanks.
So, of course, ASP Ali, one of the things I wanted to get into, because it's been a concern of mine, you hear about it with regards to maybe with police violence or so forth. One of these ideas thrown out there is with regards to fake police maybe being the perpetrators of some of the things the police might be blamed for. And most recently this week, someone was charged, a suspect with regards to robberies. He was presenting himself as a police officer as a way to engage the public and then rob them. That was his gimmick, I guess you could say. So first of all, I'd just like to ask, with this case or cases like these, is there any difficulty trying to investigate these cases, and maybe what could you advise the public to look out for to try to, when they're presented with a situation that might be suspicious of? We don't want the public now to think all police officers speak to them are fake and to act aggressive and belligerent. But at the same time, they might need maybe some pointers as what they could do to figure out the veracity of who they're talking to.
Yeah, so there was good work by the officers. I know that was a public interest story, and it came up on a lot of situations of the fake police, and the commissioner said that investigations was in fact taking place, and as you see, this is the results of what is taking place. One person arrested for to being a fake police. It's easy once you arrest that individual, because once you don't have any documentation, any proper identification to substantiate you are police, you are purporting to be a police officer. So for instance, if you see what I have on here right now, this is the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service official badge, and behind my badge, it's my police ID. So this officiates that I am a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and I must have this on me at all times. So when the commissioner has indicated that we need to present documentation, an officer should have this displayed at all times. Even though I am in this particular uniform, this uniform does not say that I am a police officer alone.
Right.
This authenticates me at some point in time. I had to present an additional identification. Right? So because
No, but acting ASP, I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you know, just as how we've seen individuals actually being able to mimic the uniform of police officers, and though you've pointed out what you should look out for in a police officer's uniform, across Trinidad and Tobago, I don't think it's news that there's also ways of people actually fraudulating official documents such as national ID cards, driver's licenses. Won't it be the same if it came to a police badge or even a police ID?
So I'm like where you're going with that, Keaton. The issue that we have is that it's not the ID is the issue. Because we never had any situations where police or where the public was able to forge this particular document and present it as an identification. What they would do is wear the uniform that is similar to that of a police officer. So what we are trying to reinforce in the police service, that this is in the uniform of the inspector and the first division operational way that will give you certain symbols on it as well as the badges of what your rank would be. This is what you can question. So even if you see somebody wearing an individual come looking like this, he should have his official Trinidad and Tobago Police Service badge, which you can request to see his number, rank, and ask his number, rank, and name. And if he cannot indicate that, then you have some level of suspicion that may or may not be a police officer. Now, if the officer is not in a uniform, and they may have on a jersey marked police with a emblem of the symbol, because anyone can go to any store and print that emblem and put police on the back of it, but you cannot go to any store and get this. This is what you would say, the checks and balances that we have to look at, but the general public don't really ask for these, as well as many police officers don't present this because they don't feel it is necessary. But the law clearly states that you must present yourself with a police ID, identify yourself properly by means of a Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Identification Card, which is the one that I'm displaying in the back here, right, at an appropriate time. Now, depending on circumstances, you may not have time to say, tell the criminal, stop, I'm a police officer, look my badge. That is not logical. But if you're going to execute a search warrant at a particular location, you present the search warrant and present your proper identification where the person is entitled to get.
So I now have to ask, if somebody claiming to be an officer does not have this badge, right, what would you advise the public to do? What would be the next step? Because obviously, you don't want to say, well, if they don't have the badge, you know, you could start to fight them. Like, that's, even if it was a criminal, we're not going to advocate for that, for the member of the public to get involved on that level. But could they deny the officer's instructions, or could they make a request that if he was a police officer, he would have to carry out?
Right, so we have to be very cautious in how we treat with this, because we don't want to send the wrong impression or the wrong messages to the public that could confront every police officer and you get yourself in some situation. So if it is that you are suspecting that this may or may not be a police officer, then you have the right, probably communicate command center, ask the officer his number, rank, and name, and if he refuses to give it, even if he give you a number, rank, and name, you make note of it. Allow that police officer at that point in time, who is deemed to be a police officer, conduct the activities that he or she says they are doing. If the activities seem to be very suspicious to you, then you will have to judge how it's behaving. How the situation is playing out. Make the relevant notes, go to the nearest police station and then make a report that John Brown came and did X, Y, and Z. Now, if I refuse to give my name and my number, something's wrong, because my name and my regimental number is only assigned to me within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. And if I call the command center, and you call the command center and give them my name, my rank, and my regimental number, they will be able to say who I am.
So you could call in the moment, circumstances permitting. Would you even say, you could tell the person claiming to be the police officer, well, what if we continue this at the nearest police station?
That is that, and dependent on the circumstance, you can ask or request that situation.
That's a very good point, Sean, actually, because what I was about to ask is that we have seen before, at least circulating within the social media, of officers who may be irate for whatever reason. You don't often get the entire story, so you don't know the circumstances. But In that instance, if an officer is actually responding to you in a not so professional manner, let's put it that way, and is refusing to share their information with you, one, how do you deal with that? The second part is, because I mentioned clips circulating on social media, could you just clarify whether or not citizens have the right or are allowed to actually videotape or take photos of a police officer when they're conducting their duties?
Yes, they do, but they have to be very cautious, and I want to caution the public. Don't take it as I'm saying they have a right, or ultimate right. They have a right to protect themselves. They don't have a right to interfere with the officers carrying out his duties. So if you are videotaping that situation, and within that situation, the officer deems you being obstructing him in carrying out his duty, he has a right in law, right, to inform you that it desist from doing it, and if you continue, it's an arrestable offense.
Okay. And in terms of, again, an officer refusing to share the information, again, for whatever circumstance, the officer's angry, the situation isn't going too well.
Well, our internal departmental orders as well as our standing orders indicate that an officer is obligated to share his number, rank, and name with the public. If he refuses to do so, that he can get himself in a disciplinary manner. Once he reported to the nearest police station, an investigation will be conducted to determine, first of all, whether or not that is a legitimate police officer, and if it is not, that individual can also be charged for purporting to be a police officer. And if he is a police officer, he could be put before a disciplinary matter for failing to inform the public of his number, rank, and name, because we are entitled to do so. We may want to go one step further. Now, with the operational way, you don't have regimental numbers. But with the blue and gray uniform, your regimental number is clearly stated onto your, so you don't have to ask. Just take a picture of the number or memorize the number, write it down, and inquire afterwards, because that number is only assigned to that individual, and once that individual retires or retires from the police service, or probably if he unfortunately dies while in service, that number also retires or goes with him.
Well, very finally, Acting ASP, due to time, and I didn't even realize time went by so quickly, but this is how the topic is, a very important topic. Has the TGPS made any sort of headways in terms of the investigation as to figure out where these individuals, where these criminals are obtaining, let's say, fraudulent TTPS uniform badges or anything, where they're getting it from or how they're acquiring it?
Let's put it this way. A lot of things happen online, right? When you go online, I can search New York NYPD and see a lot of articles associated with NYPD. I can look for any law enforcement agency across the world, and I can ship it in. Now, we can ship in, but the issue here is that it's a blue and gray uniform, it's a gray shirt. When you look at it, it's not difficult to get a gray shirt at that point in time. It's hard. It has for the public to distinguish whether or not it's an original, it's officially a police shirt or not. Many of the situations that we have, you'll hear the public indicate that the persons have been dressed in police-like uniform or resembling that of police officers. And when you ask for a description, it is not a blue and gray alone. It's not gray, it's tactical wear. It's a black shirt with police on it. And that is what they're accustomed wearing. So the commissioner has made a decision in this whole situation to revisit that approach and now give a mandate that officers are now required to get into the blue and gray to distinguish officers as to all these non-authorized type of uniforms.
Well, Acting ASP, you're absolutely right, because I did a very quick search, and you're right, you can get anything online. We knew it, but I mean, if it's anything to do with the TTPS, you're right, it's just everything is there.
The unintended consequences.
Yeah, certainly. Well, folks, we break for WSN's news on the hour now. When we return, we open up the phone lines this morning for the final edition of Talking Point September the 9th, 2022. We'll be right back.
You do realize you didn't.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I am Denise St. Clair. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Flags to be flown at half-mast today. Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs extends condolences on passing of the Queen. PDP leader revokes Folly's deputy political leader position. THA spat continues with Watson Duke cautioning the chief secretary. And internationally, King Charles to address nation as first time as a monarch. Now for the details. Flags are being flown at half-mast today at all state and non-state agencies and all of Trinidad and Tobago diplomatic missions as a sign of respect on the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. This took effect immediately following her passing yesterday and today and on the day of the Queen's funeral. Meanwhile, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs Dr. Amy Brown, speaking on the passing of the Queen on behalf of the government, extended condolences to the UK.
We're now in a state of transition and we look forward to our interactions with King Charles III. It is my expectation, yet to be confirmed, it is my expectation that it is likely that Her Excellency, the President, may represent our country at the funeral. On to some other news now. The PDP political leader, Watson Duke, at a PDP executive meeting held last night, has revoked with immediate effect the appointments of Deputy Political Leader Folly Augustine, Dr. Faith B. Israel, and Alicia Roberts Patterson. The public is hereby to note that they are now ordinary members of the PDP and should be guided accordingly. Well, earlier on Thursday evening, Watson Duke sent a stern warning to the THA Chief Secretary Folly Augustine to iron out their issues in an amicable manner. This comes after a public spat which began after Duke accused the THA of neglecting 27 Tobagonians supposedly stranded in New York without food or board.
I'm calling on you now through this medium again. Before you make a foolish move which you will regret, think twice, think hard, put away the bravado spirit you have, that showboating spirit you have, that boastful spirit you have that say, "One boss here." Put it away. Pull yourself off that pedestal and humble yourself, and let us reason this thing out.
He cautioned the Chief Secretary that he's entering a political war zone.
You cannot threaten the political leader of a party to emasculate him and not go into a war zone. A political war zone which you will not win, but certainly which you will lose. So I want to caution you with all great advice as a brother to humble yourself, as we say in Tobago, dig yourself, chill out, drink some cooling bush and smoke a peace pipe.
In international news now, King Charles III is expected to address the nation for the first time as sovereign later following the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Britain's longest reigning monarch died peacefully surrounded by her family at Balmoral in Scotland on Thursday. The king is on his way to London, where he's also due to meet Prime Minister Liz Truss later. Gun salutes will be fired and church bells will toll on Friday as the UK pays tribute to Hareen. Well, that was News to the Hour on WESN. I am Denise St. Clair. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to Talking Point here on WESN. Very quick correction. Thank you very much, by the way, to both the ESP and Sean. I made a bit of a confusing mess before we concluded for News on the Hour. I meant to say the final episode of Talking Point for this particular week, not the final edition.
Don't worry. I myself have had a morning of faux pas early this morning on AM Prime, so you're not alone.
Well, actually, when I woke up this morning at 6 o'clock and I heard Welcome to Talking Points, I thought, oh my God, am I late for the show?
Oh my gosh, yeah, there we go.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, the acting ASP is with us this morning and we're grateful for his presence. But the majority of the conversation focused on the passing of Queen Elizabeth II in remembrance of her, and we were also able to move away from that for a moment to speak about the continued crimes of criminals posing as police officers, though we must admit within the last few days we've heard nothing further in terms of such events. But we're opening up the phone lines now.
Yes.
Opening up the phone lines. Please call in and join us on Talking Point this morning. And I think we guessed correctly when we stated that the caller from Diggle Martin will be the very first this morning. Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Hi guys, everyone. Good morning. Thank you. Great show. Regardless of what one's beliefs are on a monarchy, like you said, she had a seismic impact on the world. She was a leader of leaders, kind of, and she epitomized dignity, integrity, decency, the unmatched sense of duty. This has been expressed by the world leaders themselves, and I think while she exuded confidence and charisma, for me the one thing that superseded all of that was her humility and the ability to literally make each person feel that he or she was the only person around. And just in my observation of her interaction with each person, I felt she was warm. She never had a superficial smile. I was truly fascinated by that, as I was by her unparalleled attire. And Keaton, King Charles III, like you said, he will forge his own path. And one great thing about him is that he's been a proponent of climate change action long before it was a thing, as was Prince William on wildlife trafficking. So I look forward to those things, and lovely work for preparing all these vignettes, must control. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, caller.
Thank you, caller. I noticed she has gone from being the last caller to being the first caller.
In fact, I think we heard the phone ringing before the news even finished.
Well, that's how it goes.
Oh, we have a caller on the line. Another call, actually, from Dico Martin. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, sir.
Morning.
Well, I'm just calling to offer my condolences to the royal family and by extension, King Charles. The world has lost a great human being, and as the previous caller said, her humility was so great and to be admired by everyone. That is what we need in this world, and I tell you, I hope that God bless the soul and she will rise in glory. Thank you, gentlemen, for taking my call, and have a very good morning.
Have a good morning to you, sir.
Have a good morning and a good weekend ahead. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you see, there are people calling in to express their condolences to the royal family, and by extension, the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth. We actually have a caller on the line with us from St. James. Good morning, caller.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You guys. Good morning to you guys. This is a question to the officer. He mentioned that in asking for an officer to produce his ID and so, and if he refuses, you can report him. But now, if he refuses to produce that thing, when you go to the station or some official, what do you mention to them if he refuses to give his name and ID? How do you report that?
Excellent question, caller. Thank you very much. I'll let the ESP respond off there.
It's similar to if someone would have committed a crime. So you would have reported to the police officer at the station, the description of the person, what they were wearing, a physical description of the person and the incident, how it took place. Because at that point in time, you do not have any documentation or anything to substantiate that he was a police officer. So it's similar because it's come like the officer now will be investigating a report of a possible crime where this individual is purporting to be a police officer. So then we have to have that, you just have a description because you don't have identification. But whatever you have that you can describe that individual or put a description towards, you present that to the officer.
Well, forgive me, I have to ask this. There have been, in other instances, when reporting to the precinct, the station, the nearest station, you know, officers might say, you know, you have to go to another station. Or maybe the member of the public might feel as though the officers are not taking the claim seriously. Is there any other avenue to take for whatever reason that you feel it's not working out going to the station? Is there any other avenue, a hotline, a tip line, a number?
So let me just clarify one thing first and reinforce to the public. The Trinidad and Tobago Police Service has an open door policy. And I repeat, we have an open door policy. You can make a report at any police station, whether you'll reside in the district or not. It's the police officer's responsibility and duty to take that report. So I just want to urge you, public, please, if any officer tells you to go to another location and you're within the police station, take his number, rank, and name and ask to see the senior officer because he has a responsibility to take your report.
Acting ASB, I have a question for you, but we do have a caller on the line with us from Tobago. Good morning, caller.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
A police officer approaches me on the road. I don't know he's a police officer. However, I asked him for his identification. He refuses to give me. How do I leave that scene?
I'm sorry, caller. What did you say? How do you what?
How do I leave that scene? Remember, the police officer has authority, but he also had denied to give me his identification. Even though I asked him for it, he has denied to give me. But you said I should report it to the police station. How do I leave the scene there to get to the police station?
All right.
All right, thank you very much, caller.
Or let me amend that. Sure. I guess if the officers, for all intents and purposes, holding civilians' attention and not letting them go, or potentially, is it possible they might not let them even make a phone call? You know, so I guess he's asking, how do you deal with that confrontation?
And it's a relevant issue.
I was just about to say, do not reach for anything in your pocket when a police officer is by your door.
Exactly. So what you do now, we have two situations here that we want to be very, very careful with. We have the situations where the several reports we have where police officers executing search warrants at night. And these situations normally play out at night where persons purporting to be police officers or resembling that of a police officer in uniform committing offenses. We have not had any incidents that I'm aware of, I could be stand corrected, where a police officer stops you on the road in a police vehicle, because obviously he would have been in a police vehicle coming out in a police uniform. And even though if he came out of a unmarked police vehicle, you would have to take the vehicle number for verification. So there are measures that you can do, or take, I should say, that you can verify at some point in time. However, if that individual should exit a vehicle, an unmarked police vehicle, and because if it's a police vehicle, obviously it's a police officer, you allow the officer, in that particular point in time, he's deemed to be a police officer, carrying out the authorized function, assumption that he's a police officer. Let that officer conduct whatever inquiry, whatever investigation, whatever questions he have to ask you, and then you are still free to go to the police station afterwards and voice your concern about the individual.
Well, acting ASP, I still have a question for you, but, but I think the public is most interested in this conversation. There's a caller on the line with us from Aruka. Good morning, caller. Hi, good morning, caller. Could you please lower the volume on your television? Listen to us through the phone. All right, I think, caller, I'm so sorry. We're going to have to cut your call because, so we have a call on the line with us from Gasparillo. All right, okay. Call is back with us.
Just advise folks, there's a delay. So please, as Michael said, listen to us through the phone so that there's no confusion or pause or excessive pause, because it's difficult to communicate when you're listening to us on a delay.
So before you call the station, just please lower the volume on your television. Acting ASP, if a police officer fails to produce their identification number, their badge, or their police ID, whatever it may be, can that police officer, who has a duty and an obligation to do such, could they still arrest an individual, even though the individual has made the request? The individual is not sure whether or not this is a police officer, but the police officer refuses. Could they then arrest that individual?
Yes, they can. And under the criminal law, remember we talking about, in that capacity, if he's not a police officer, he's still a civilian, and a civilian has authority to has the power to arrest if someone is committing an offense. So in that circumstances, he may be deemed to be a civilian carrying out an arrest. Now, the issue would come up when it reaches the investigation aspect of it for court procedures, for court, whether or not he was an authorized or a legitimate police officer. And if he was not, he committed an offense.
So this is when the officer did not reveal the documents, but it's the case where he is an officer.
Yes.
I guess the flip side to Michael's question is, what if it is an illegal activity? As you mentioned, we've had those cases where for whatever reason, don't want to go into details, a criminal is attempting to arrest a member of the public in order to then, as part of a greater crime.
Well, yeah, like kidnapping, for example.
And that was one of the that was the situation with this last, where we arrested the individual purporting to be a police officer. They came dressed in police, what appears to be resembling police officer uniform, detained the individuals, which is in fact put them under arrest, carry them to a location. So they actually, under the umbrella of the authority of a police officer, they detained and committed a criminal act. So in these circumstances, I am saying that only after an investigation has been conducted can we really determine whether or not it's a real police officer or not a legitimate or illegitimate police officer. But for all intent and purposes, if an individual approaches you not wearing something resembling that of police uniform, I'm talking about a uniform of this blue and gray, presenting a badge, and everything seems to be above board, don't confront and ask that person, are you a police officer?
Yeah, don't go there immediately.
Don't go there immediately. Allow that individual to conduct the inquiries.
Well, we do have a caller on the line with us from Tobago. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
And I have a question for the inspector. Inspector, when a citizen is confronted by a police officer, someone claiming to be a police officer, and they perhaps feel a bit uneasy, do they have the right to request that a supervisor come to the scene, and does the police officer or the person claiming to be a police officer have a duty to not go any further with that individual, but simply comply? I'll listen to your response to that.
Thank you, Paula. I know that is the case in some jurisdictions in America.
Yes. It is not a practicable approach in Trinidad and Tobago that you would be able to call an officer from a station to come and verify. In Trinidad, we don't have an individual officer working by themselves. We work in pairs. So you would have both persons working together. It is very unlikely in a situation of this nature where someone stops you on the road in a uniform, in a police vehicle, that he or she is not a legitimate police officer. Well, however, based on what the caller is indicating, I understand where the caller is going from. We still want to reinforce that, allow that individual at that point in time to conduct whatever inquiry or any questioning of you, right? At the end of it, you can voice your opinion to the nearest police station where you believe that this was not a police officer. And if it is a police officer, at that point in time, you will be able to get his number, rank, and name to go further, as Keaton indicated, that if you find that the satisfaction, or you didn't get proper service, and you was of the opinion that you wasn't treated in a proper manner or professional manner, now you have information as to the number, rank, name of the individuals, right, that you can request from the supervisors at that point in time to take it to another location for investigation.
Well, we have a caller on the line with us from San Juan. Good morning, caller.
Yeah, a very good morning to the panel.
Good morning.
Sean Michael and the acting superintendent there. And first of all, deepest condolences to the royal family of Britain. I really admire that lady. I feel personally, as part of me has left. And from what I heard from my parents and grandparents, I am probably Keaton and Sean Michael, the only individual in Trinidad. If I have to stand up, I still feel that what I heard from my parents and grandparents about the colonial days, when there was law and order and productivity and discipline, I wish if we were still under colonial rule. Anyway, that being said, did I hear the police officer there, acting superintendent Ali, right, that while a police officer is carrying out the exercise of his duty, that you cannot take your camcorder, your cell phone or whatever and film him? Or is it that while the police officer is doing his duty, you could film him, maybe stand on the other side of the pavement, but you cannot obstruct the officer? Because I don't think there should be any impediment to an individual, a citizen, filming a police officer while some commotion is going on between a police officer and a civilian. Because you had this matter, in closing, you had this matter in the United States of America, this world that went worldwide and caught the attention of the entire world. Because when Derek Chauvin, the white police officer, rested his knee on George Floyd, he was being filmed.
Yeah.
If he wasn't being filmed, that matter would have gone dead. So,
sorry, yes, we're going to have to cut you because we
I'll listen to your response and your police officer's response. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before we go to the acting ASP's response, let's just take this final call from Shagones. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The Queen brings back very fond memories to me. I remember when her father died, she was vacationing in Africa.
Kenya, yes.
And when they went to look for she was up on a tree.
Yes, yes.
And they get it up. And when, during the coronation, this was broadcast throughout the Commonwealth. I am in Chungwana saying I went to the Presbyterian church where they had the ceremony being broadcast. And what I like to think of is that the British Empire is undoubtedly the greatest empire the world have ever seen. Nobody conquered it. They know when it was time to wind up, and they did it in a very peaceful way. I think our biggest problem is we went and take independence. Because I pointed out before to you, I cannot think of one improvement in this country due to independence. Oh, we have good people and they do great things. But from an independence point of view, that signal our downfall when people like Johnny Uvalavaradhan hijack the government. And finally, I don't understand what is going on in Tobago. Some time ago when I mentioned about Tobago get excessive money, I think Sean Federman say, oh, they claim that a lot of their contribution is more than what they get. I don't know what that contribution is. He never explained it. But I know Janice James, a very knowledgeable fellow on Tobago, quantified it a few weeks ago in a newspaper, and it wasn't a quarter of the money they get. And you look at this thing with Duke, these people have no respect for law and order.
Yeah. Professor, listen, I'm sure I must apologize to you. Due to time, I'm going to have to...
okay, no problem.
Yes.
Thank you.
But thank you very much, Professor. I please call in and comment us on the program on Monday, because we will be talking about that. But we have to take a very quick commercial break. When we do return... Okay, actually, I've just been informed due to time, we don't have that. So, Acting ASP, the caller from San his question.
Right, so like I was mentioning earlier, he misunderstood what I was saying, that the civilians or anyone has a right, so they can in fact videotape an incident is taking place. If that videotaping at some point in time is deemed to be an obstruction by the police officer, that's a different story altogether. Right, so yes, you have the right, you are free to, because the officer is carrying out his functions. But if you, and I agree with you, the caller, if you're on the other side of the road doing that, there's nothing debars you from doing it. But once you're up in the officer's face, with the camera in the officer's face, that is obstruction, and that's what many of the persons don't understand, that right doesn't give you the right to obstruct a police officer in the execution of his duties.
Certainly. Well, Acting ASP, I want to thank you very much for your presence once more in the program. We look forward to having you again next week. And thank you for all your response to our callers. Callers, I do apologize to cut some of you simply due to the time factor. But thank you very much to all those who contributed. Sean Michael Small, a very interesting week. You heard from two of our callers that they believe that Trinidad and Tobago would have still been better off under the British Empire. And I'll be very honest with you, I've heard that from many people. I think it's easier to say that now than it was in 1962.
I think maybe, but we do have to also remember the fact that the British government, the monarchy, we might respect due to the quality of the individual who has been monarch for the last 70 years. But the actual execution and implementation came from the government. And it's not as though the UK hasn't had its own fair share of twists and turns ever since we broke away from the empire itself. Although I do agree in terms of scope and in terms of several other circumstances, the British Empire might just very well be the greatest empire that the world has seen, and we probably won't see anything like it again. But unfortunately, this week, with some of the controversy that came out, with the language of a certain alderman in Sangre Grande, with the unfortunate situation of Paria, and now with what is going on in CHA, it does give some more credence to that argument.
I think certainly you would be hearing that argument for some time to come if things don't improve. But as we conclude this program, thank you very much once more. I'm Keaton Shaw, and on behalf of Talking Points and WESN Content Capital, thank you very much for joining us. Her Majesty the Queen, Queen Elizabeth II, has passed on. May she rest in peace. We leave you with this.
WESN.
Chantwell Vibes, a musical tribute to Andre Tanker, Saturday, September 24th, 2022, Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m. Featuring 3 Canal, Mavis John, Ataclan, Empress Ajay, Stacy Sobers, and panist Natasha Joseph. Tickets, $300. Available at Crosby's Music Center, St. James. Extra Foods, Rima, Grand Bazaar, and Endeavour. Online at Island E-Tickets. Committee members at 678-2843 or 482-3111. Central Bank box office on the day of the event. Mart's Liquor Palace, Diego Marte Main Road, La Puerta. A musical tribute to Andre Tanker. Saturday, September 24th, 2022. Central Bank Auditorium. Showtime, 7:30 p.m.
I am Rondell Donowa, and you are watching WESN, the content capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit?
Yes.
What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole. It's for all of us in public.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
I am Kemuel Pascal, and we are WESN, Content Capital.
With society plagued by a host of issues, with debates surrounding our urgent concerns falling short, with questions of our future not always being answered,
The conversation continues. Join me